Still in Africa, but this time in Cameroon, Cameroonian President Paul Biya gave his end-of-year address to the nation and a subtle hint that he still has interest in keeping the presidency. Mr. Biya warned that 2025, the year Cameroon is meant to hold presidential elections, is full of challenges, which was interpreted by some observers as a suggestion that he sees himself as president of the Central African country beyond 2025. According to him, he's paying attention to the cries of party members who have recently embarked on a propaganda drive to market his candidacy. At almost 92 years old, 40 of which he has spent at the head of his country, Paul Biya remains the sole candidate of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, according to the party's constitution. Now, let's get more reaction to this. Convener, Yes, We're Fit Revolutionary Movement and former presidential aspirant Dr. Thomas Wilson Ekubese joins me via Zoom from Akure in Ondo State. Good to have you join us on World Now. At almost 92, Paul Biya appears to be seeking an 8th term as president. What's your reaction to that, and what might be the implication for the political situation in Cameroon?
Well, thank you so much, Bosse. It's quite unfortunate that we are seeing Paul Biya wanting to have another shot at the presidency for the 8th term. And between you and I, you know that he's going to win because the election certainly will not be free and fair. But I can
We'll be back with Dr. Thomas Wilson Ekubese for more on that development coming from Cameroon. Okay, to pass you back, Doc, please go ahead with your reaction to that question.
Okay, so I was trying to explain that I can tell you for free that the reason Paul Biya wants to run for the 8th time is because he fears that if someone else comes into the office of the president, he's going to be probed. So he wants to remain perpetually in office until perhaps his last day on earth, wherein if someone else comes into office, there'll be nothing to probe in a man who is no longer alive. And I think it's more of an African thing. It's quite unfortunate. Someone said once that we can't have everything. We have the best of human resources, we have the best of natural resources, and that if we also have the best of leadership, it means we have everything that one can ever wish for, and nobody has everything. Maybe that's actually the philosophy, but it's quite unfortunate. And what we intend to see in Africa are leaders who will govern properly, selflessly, and hand over governance to younger ones who are also visionary. For me, it's not really about age. I don't have a problem with age. I used to have a problem with age until in 2019, when we came together as young people that were running for the office of the president, and I saw that what some younger people exhibited is even worse than what some of these old generation people were exhibiting. So it's not about age, it's about sincerity, it's about selflessness, it's about the vision. But for Paul Biya going for the 8th term is unfortunate. Unfortunately, he will have to win again, and then the nation will be back. He's actually pulling that country back, and until he leaves office, I don't see Cameroon making significant progress.
Expect to see accountability and all. And as it is, Paul Biya has actually promised to address the immense challenges facing Cameroonians in the year 2025. But you know what? He's been in power since the year 1982. That's about 42 years, if you do that calculation. Should Cameroonians trust him again with their vote?
It's not a matter of trust. Obviously, if you look at the economy of Cameroon, if you look at the atmosphere of Cameroon, if you look at the body language of the people, you will see that the issue is more than people just going to the ballot to vote. Those who have risen in opposition, you see what has happened to them. So it's not a free and fair contest, as it were. And that's why I said, no matter what happens, he's going to win again and again and again, because he's been able to, pocket the democratic structure of that country in his pocket, the typical African way. And that's why I'm proud of what Ghana did in their last presidential election. And we saw a party in opposition come and win the ballot. And because the Independent Electoral Commission there in that country is truly independent, it's not under the caprices of the political machinery of the players in that nation. So, but we are not seeing that in Cameroon, and that's why I'm saying that unfortunately that may keep going on and on until the last day of the year.
You mentioned earlier that you are not concerned or bothered by Paul Biya's age, but let's talk about speculations. You know, the fact that his health doesn't seem to be in excellent form. And although the opposition believes that his ambition for an 8th term is unrealistic, do you consider that strong enough to deter him?
Now, there's a whole lot of difference between age and health. As a medical practitioner, I can as well tell you that someone can be old in age and still very healthy and strong. And someone can be far, far younger and the person is not healthy. Okay, so if we have someone who is not healthy, someone that has health challenges, such a person has no business running for political office. You know, so on the basis of age, I don't see anything wrong anymore. I used to see, but I no longer see anything wrong in an older person running for an office, so long as the person is healthy and able to carry out the functionality of that office. So
now let's talk about health. Dr. Kubese,
there's no point in take time.
Yeah, so the health now is a concern. You know, that's what we're talking about. Last year, for some time, he wasn't seen in public for, you know, quite a long period of time, and a number of people were concerned about his health. As a matter of fact, he was rumored to have died at some point, but of course, they came out later to say, you know, that was wrong. So what do you say about his health, and do you consider that the opposition, the opposition, do you consider them strong enough, really, to stop him from forging ahead with this desire?
You know, on the basis of health, you know, a couple of months back, like you rightly said, he was off the radar and he wasn't being seen in public space, and it was assumed that he was no longer alive until he came back alive again. So on the basis of poor health, I think the opposition parties in Cameroon needs to rise up and take their country back. You know, one should not be afraid of death. Everyone will die someday, because the major fear here is that the opposition in Cameroon is very weak, very, very weak. So if you have a situation where the leader is not healthy, not just by virtue of age, but by virtue of incapacitation on the ground of health, and the person that is supposed to take over from him is not able to do that for certain reasons, then he's supposed to, you know, leave that position for those who are ready to come in. But like I've mentioned before, Paul Biya is not going to let down. He will keep running and running until his last day, because he wouldn't want to be probed.
All right.
For over 40 years, that man has been in office. So it is either the opposition rises up and get him out of office and get younger people there, or else what we are seeing will continue until his last day.
As we wrap up the conversation, you have mentioned that the opposition in Cameroon is not strong. How do we strengthen opposition in Africa and stop this trend of leaders holding on tightly to power?
To strengthen opposition, those in opposition will need to have the mind of selflessness. You see, what we have today in Africa is that we have people in leadership who are embezzling the commonwealth of the nation across Africa. And then we have those who are not in power that are waiting for their own turn to embezzle. So we have more people who are waiting to embezzle than those who are actually embezzling. So if you have such a situation like we have widespread in Africa, you can have a strong opposition, because opposition that wants to go in and even steal more than those who are currently stealing certainly cannot be strong enough. And that's why you find people carpeting from one political party to the other. Our political parties in Africa are not based on ideology, because all we want to do is to get into power, get as much as we can. If we are not getting it, we come from one party to the other, because there is no basis for those encamping. So for me, building a strong political opposition will have to be by people who are like-minded, those who want their nation to work, those who want to get into office, not because of what they can get from office, but because they need their nation to work and be truly independent and functional.
All right, Doc. Convener, Yes for Future Revolutionary Movement, and former presidential aspirant, Dr. Thomas Wilson Ekubese. Thank you very much for your time on World Now.
Thanks for having me.